start with a general question based on my previous presentation, and let me see who's going to answer that. How do you see the general question? I was thinking Andreas for this, but if you feel, let's see. Yeah, exactly. How do you see the landscape, the cyber landscape evolving? Not so much based on the actual threats out there, but based on the change on regulations that keep coming, because in the interval I heard many people asking, is this obligatory to have the cyber notation or not? There's a great question there. What part of this is obligatory or not, and what is coming? So what's your view? What are you doing to keep pace with new regulations coming?
Okay, hello from my side. The truth is that I think I also mentioned in my presentation in the morning that regulation is something that we can't avoid anyway, so we have to embrace it and find a way to make use of it. So I think the best thing that is happening is the fact that more regulation are coming out, and this is in balance with the more threats that exist. And there is a reason for that, so I think it's rational. But these new regulations give us a guideline on what to do, first of all, in order to be compliant, but also give us some guidelines on what to do in our infrastructure in order to be more secure. So from one point is that it is something obligatory and we have to do it no matter what, but on the other hand, it's a helpful tool to guide us through this process of becoming cyber secure. Now, also, one thing that I just wanted to share that with you is that I have been in several TMSA audits, and what I realize, and I think it will come, of course it's my own prediction, is the fact that right now they just stick with the very basics of the regulations. But I'm sure that in a couple of years, these TMSA audits will be more strict in terms of cyber. I'm sure that the auditor will not be only one. It will come along with an IT expert, and we will be obliged to have a standard of cyber security infrastructures. So yes, I think there is a huge change in everything related to cyber in terms of the regulations, and we have to follow it.
Okay, so continuing on that, not special for you, for everybody. Which of those regulations you think it's more demanding? And which affect us the most? Because, for example, NIS 2 is not obligatory for all of us. I don't know.
Good question. Since I still keep the microphone, let me answer that. From my experience, from my company, which is not actually a regulation, is the TMSA. But this is what we actually deal with, and it is something that we put a lot of effort because the customers ask for that, so we have to comply no matter what. Other than that, as you said, NIS 2, it's not obligatory, so I don't know if any company will say, okay, I'm going to invest money and resources on something that it's not obligatory. And I think this is the way shipping is operating. I mean, it's not so reactive, it's more rather than doing it when they have no other option. So for the moment, for us at least, with the tankers, I think TMSA is one of the, let's say, regulations.
So do you have anything to...
Well, do you consider that the regulations are the guidelines for us for cybersecurity? Because from my perspective, it's that the regulations just the trigger to knock the door on the sea level. Because considering the cybersecurity is us against the world on all times. So why wait for the regulation in order to comply, rather than get the world in benefit for us? Get the information from other domains, from other industries, in order to adapt, because eventually everything will occur also in maritime. Connectivity managed and get a lot faster pace on the vessels. So why stay just there? I mean, that's a trigger point, a question, sorry for a question.
Yeah, okay. So it's often a tool. Regulation can be used as a tool for us to further our efforts and interests into management or the owners, and everybody else. Okay, so let me get to Achilles. So Achilles,
Yes, I'm not in direct contact,
let me enhance the question. Since you do lots of with databases and everything, which is the heart of the system, are there any special measures or special regulations that relate with databases and how you use them?
Our systems are affected regarding regulations such as SOX, or the software has to be audited by them in terms of security. But when running a database is, employing its own risks, but writing software is risky as well. So one has to keep in mind that security must be dealt by design and not, like a later add-on concern. You must design systems to be secure by the birth by the beginning. Of course, it's not something that stops. It never ends. You have to read continuously. And the CV, if you have any system exposed to the internet, you must patch it sometimes even before, by reading, mailing lists, and etc. Before the news break. You have to be extra proactive. One has to, of course, to take care of, SQL injections. You have to review, analyze the code, profile for all those things, because dangers may come from outside, but also from inside. If you are, on the same network, you don't know what the employee next door is doing to your system.
And I guess all the ransomware attack and so on target directly at the databases first. Yeah?
Yeah, it has been the case with this Postgres, vulnerability during the summer, PGME. Yeah.
So you mentioned SOX regulation,
Yes, yes.
the one from the money world.
Yes.
Okay, it still affects us.
Yes, in terms of.
So what other regulation? I mean, the new U.S. Coast Guard regulation. Do they affect us?
Every regulation affects maritime, to be honest, especially security. So, yes, it affects us not technically, as I mentioned before. It's mostly management perspective. So let's benefit from that in total. The good thing regarding the regulation and the perspective is that it's not a guideline mostly for us, for the IT department, I mean. It's mostly about that, as Achilles mentioned, you need to learn and adapt. You are, for new building also, the regulation is regarding to consider cybersecurity on the birth of the creation of the vessel, rather than add-on and ad hoc solve the solution.
Yeah, is the by design
Exactly.
principle that takes place there. Building on that, what about UR 26 and 27? How much do they affect? Okay, UR 26 and 27 are for new buildings, and it's obligatory from now on.
From July,
Yeah. Do you see any impact still?
For the new buildings, I think there will be an impact. We were lucky we had a new building that was started before that, so for the moment we don't bother with these regulations. Well, in order to answer it, because probably we may go back and forth many times with every regulation. So I would like to share what we're doing in Ionic in order to, let's say, to get prepared for all these regulations. As I said in the morning in my presentation, we're writing the manuals again, the manuals related to cybersecurity. And what we do is actually we take all the, let's say, regulations that probably might affect us, whether they do or not, but still they are related to shipping. And we're trying to build our manuals based on all these regulations. Of course, there is a lot of work of finding the right parts. It's not that we read the regulation and write the manual, but we're trying to find out which of this regulation and which part of the regulation might affect us and include it in the manual. So our effort is to create a manual that will include all the latest regulations in there. And in that case, we will also review our processes based on this information. And what we plan to do is that we plan to structure the manual in such a way so every time there is a new regulation, we can easily adapt it without having to review the whole manual or write it from scratch. Because I have the feeling that this regulation will keep on coming. Every sector in shipping would like to have its own regulation because it's not only a matter, it's a marketing game as well, and a business game as well. It's not only an actual reason for the regulation, so we have to be prepared no matter what.
Okay, any other comments on that? Nick.
Sorry, I got a question to Andreas. Do you just review your cybersecurity manual, or have you implemented within your SMS?
We have it implemented within SMS currently, but what we're trying to do now is create a new version, let's say, and as long as it reaches the point and the level of depth we want, then it will also be included in the SMS. Because that's the policy of the company, otherwise it could be isolated.
Sorry for asking with a question, but this is exactly our company, the same perspective, that we need to review the whole process, not just have cybersecurity as an appendix on our SMS. It's the holistic precautions of things and how the company operates regarding the regulations, not only regulation, but in general, the procedures within the company for the vessels, for the office also.
Nothing more on this. Okay, so this gets me to the next part, which is the human factor at all level. How I had my own.
I'd like to add something.
Yeah. The previous
yes,
stuff.
regarding
Yeah, okay.
to the various directives coming from all sorts of major, entities in the market that affects the shipping in its entirety. So we have the majors. They want us to have secure system. They impose their own, let's say, set of standards. Then we have TMSA, we have SOX, we have whatever. So we have, a pool, let's say, of sources of regulations.
The charters these days.
Yes. So this list, increases. So we must have full documentation and modeling of our security situation. We must not only document it, but let's say digitized by itself.
Achilles, this is very interesting. Right here at lunch, they called me from the office. Our next charterer looked up our domain, and our domain is private. My owner wants everything private, so we paid the extra $10, whatever it is, to keep it private. It doesn't have an address and anything. And they had it as a clause in the charter party, not charter party, the agreement with the charterers, yes, that we have to know who's the domain. So look how everything becomes transparent these days. And I told them, guys, this is not how IT works. We're not obliged to, as long as it's legally, registered and everything's okay and all the organizations are okay, you don't have to know who actually owns the domain. It's not a security issue. However, it's very nice to see that somebody is interested in such things. That's what you say, that it's a broader interest these days from everybody.
Yes, and you have to know exactly a change, how it would affect all those set of interests that might be even foreign or even conflicting with each other.
Exactly. So the one wants to know, the other doesn't want to know. So coming back to the human factor, that came from my own experience again. I think there's a big issue of human factor, how you keep these policies up, who refreshes those policies at our level, who actually puts in practice these policies, I mean the crew, the people at the office, who even approves these policies, looking up. I mean, you have from all levels input that most of the times, till now, create us problems. Okay, my own personal experience being trying to implement two-factor authentication. Such a simple thing, but it's still huge resistance, up, down, and everywhere. Okay?
I think here where the regulation comes in and give us a hand, because most of the times when we wanted to implement something that probably would change the way the users were reacting with the systems and make it a little bit more difficult, like the two-factor, we use the regulations. And actually, sometimes I used to say that a lot of democracy is not good, so we just force it. We say this is requested by whatever regulation, and goes through. And I think this is one of the good things that these regulations have when you have to convince the C-level for things like that. Because, you know, Matthew, I think up to a point they are right. They don't understand. I mean, they cannot understand the criticality of having two-factor authentication and not. And it's not their job to understand, but it's their job to trust you, me, and all the people that they have hired for this reason. That's their problem, that probably they are not trusting enough the people they have choose to do that. But still, it's not very easy to understand. So instead of losing time and effort to convince and explain why two-factor and why we should use that, you use a very good regulation. You find the one that fits you and go through.
Or commercial pressures, like the oil majors.
The management won't see the video. The next time they say no, but anyway.
Oh, okay. Any other comments on that? Okay, let's continue on that. And the particular measures employed even on board or at the office, for example, in our vessels, we employ USB locks. However, going back to the personnel issue, when I talked to the chief engineer and the captain called the chief engineer to tell him, I just told him, guys, do not plug in, apart from the USB locks, I have a software on board that tells me what time, what went in, who used it for what, and it creates a report, and I will send that to the captain. And the chief engineer told him, okay, we have 4 signed USB sticks you can use. He said, only 4. What do you think about it? And all the PCs are locked with locks on board. So, I mean, I see a great discrepancy in culture and measures. The measures say that you cannot use any USB anywhere. Everything is locked and sealed on board. And this guy, the chief engineer, not any, thinks that 4 USBs on board are a little number. I mean, I was amazed and surprised and still trying to understand, to come at terms what the policy says and what is done on board. What's your opinion? What measures do you practice on board? How hard or soft?
The thing is that it's difficult. No more questions. No more questions. The thing is that, as you mentioned before, it's handling crew. It's difficult because you need to train the people. You need to train upper and lower, every level. You need to train because, sadly or not, everyone is tech afraid, not tech aware. And as Andreas mentioned, yeah, democracy sometimes it's good. It's good. We should have democracy, but sometimes it's required to have a measure and be strict. So my last point of view, it's why I use the regulation and drop on the table. And it said on the regulation you cannot change the route from that course. But we need, from the IT perspective, to keep the regulation as a benefit and use it on our hands. And train the people. That's the difficult part. You need to provide sources, documentations, CBDs, everything as much as possible in order to train, because half of our work is handling people.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments on that?
Okay, well, I agree with Nick, and also in order to support my my wording about democracy, we don't have any USB on board. Everything is blocked. And the reason we do that is because we know that even whatever we do, they will try to bypass, they will deviate. So definitely they will do something. So we have everything blocked, and we, of course, we monitor, but the guidance is that no USB are allowed on board. That's it.
Yeah, that would take a generous culture change to change, because you have crew coming from other vessels and go to other vessels, and they're used to.
That is, sorry, Matthew, that is also the problem on what Nick says. I mean, he said we should train them. That's true, but then we should be a training center, because the people are changing very often. So you train the first one, then you have to train the second, the fourth. So you have to do all the time, which is not possible. I mean, let's be realistic. At least we don't have the resource to do that every time the crew is changing. So yes, we do train them, but sometimes there might be a gap between a shift and change. So we prefer to
But I think
be less democratic
you should have
in some cases,
a coherent group of officers. You have a closed group of officers, and
well, the captains, yes, they are rotating, but the rest of the ranking, they're not. So, we have some regulars, let's say, but we have many news as well. So here is where the less democracy might help, at least for us.
Sorry, it's back and forth on the microphone, but I agree with you that we also have blocked USB devices in total. We do not allow either on the office, neither on vessel in general, and we have created procedures to fill in that gap. So we understand that...
Such as file sharing.
Such as file sharing, we have a file share for that purpose. Or if it's required for external partners to have, we have in the middleware in order to upload and download the files. We make that procedure. We make it a little bit difficult, the life of the seafarer, rather than just having a bunch of USBs playing around, But we have that procedure to fill in the gap. And we review and evaluate, try surveys as much as possible in order to get and adapt accordingly. Because adaptability is a mandatory functionality and soft skill for a company these days.
Okay. So the next question, relating also to crew and human resources and stuff. How about artificial resources, AI? We heard little of it today. It's about time to hear more of it. How do you think it will be? Do you use it for cyber defense? And one question. And shall we defend against it? That's another question.
What's the second question?
Shall we defend against AI threats? Or against an AI agent running for a legitimate reason, let's say, in our network, Copilot, for example, by Microsoft? There's no question yet, what do we do about cyber of this thing? If this thing starts generating strange behavior at the logical level. So tools and defense, two different questions. What do you think?
I think that for maximizing, some certain parts of knowledge that is inside their system, at some point we must deal with this, professionally. I mean, get dedicated people who know exactly how this works, and not, random guy who learns a little bit, ML libraries. I see it like a tool, not a magical tool, just a tool, but certainly not a big threat. It's just a very, very upscale, and high-level tool for me. That can certainly can help.
How about the threats? I mean, on the cyber level, do you see any new threats?
No, just software. I mean, it's so different from it's software. And it's bare
So,
bone.
Nikos, Andreas.
So yeah, AI is a tool, as you mentioned correctly, but also it's a knife, a tool. You can either cook or cut the bread, or you can cut your hand. It depends how you manage it, how you protect against it. So other than be afraid, it's mandatory to invest a small part of time in order to learn and adapt from that. We don't, as a company, we don't use AI yet, but we're reviewing situations and cases that our company does. As an IT department, we daily use it, to be honest.
I was about to say you not
No, I'm not
knowingly
lying.
use AI yet,
As a
because
company,
you use
yes.
it, either you know it or not.
As a
Everybody
company,
use it.
Everybody use it, correct. As a company, we don't, sadly, because as I mentioned, most users are tech afraid. So when you mention that AI will be having security impact in your company, people are get afraid. So, but again, this is something that relates with what mentioned before, training and mentioning familiarization with new technologies and new tools. It's a mandatory field for everyone, even if there's not experts, because no one was born expert. You invest in time and learn on things and become expert on special utilities, and then you find a way to adapt according to your needs.
Okay, Andreas?
Also, we are in the same level as Nick. I mean, we're not using AI in our company. We're a little bit skeptical about how to use it, if we should well, we should probably use it in the future no matter what, but currently we do not spend time or invest any time trying to see how we're going to make use of it. I agree with Nick that as almost everything, it can be a tool in both ways, either help you or damage you. Regarding the question about if we should, let's say, defense against AI hacking or whatever, or attacks, whatever it's going to be, well, I can't really predict how this is going to evolve, but I believe that the fight with the cybercrime is something that is an ongoing process. I mean, if it is a tool for us, AI, it's going to be a tool for them as well, probably for the reasons that for the other way around. We will have to deal with that. I mean, ransomware didn't exist a couple of years ago. It was a new threat. We learned to fight it. Of course, we had some damages. I think something similar will happen. We will have to face new, more sophisticated attacks. We will learn how to deal with that. There will be some casualties, and we will move on. But this is my only personal, let's say, approach.
Well, for sure, fraud is a very good front for AI with deep fakes for voice and video. There have been, in the maritime sector, there has been a case where it's faked voice talked to the CFO and convinced him
To transfer money.
to transfer money, yeah. That's not directly an IT issue or technological issue, that's fraud. But that's a very modern way of defrauding people. They can even have a deep fake of a Zoom video to show you that they're talking to you. So there you will have to start imagining ways of defending against that, I guess.
I think this will be the easy part, meaning that probably the process of transferring money is going to be harder, as the two-factor authentication was born to solve similar issues. I assume something similar will emerge. But I have the feeling that AI has wider limits, and probably we will see more sophisticated hacking.
But I think on board, the AI is now embedded in many solutions, like weather routing, navigation, this, that, preventive. I mean, all the engine makers now, they employ a software for preventive maintenance and early warnings and stuff like that. So it's there, either we know it or not.
True.
And our maker, they embed their system connected to everything, to alarm monitoring system, to engine, to everything. So in the future, they can upgrade and ask you money for more things. Okay, so that's all I had. The last remark maybe on what's important for cyber in our industry. The most important, what do you say is the most important thing that we should all go about living here? That's a good one.
So the thing is that in cybersecurity mostly, in IT, we've been trying to be keep the information for ourselves. We do not want to expose information. We do not want to expose the incidents that occur to us because we are afraid of being, let's say, blamed on anything.
So you mentioned this as a bad thing.
That's the bad thing,
okay.
but the good thing is that we need to use transparency on most people, on most things. Even you mentioned we need to have transparency for our suppliers, for the vessels, for the UR. As you mentioned before in your presentation, the supplier for the VDR didn't have transparency regarding the security solution that they have implemented. It was secured. What's that? What's the transparency on that? So I think transparency and partnership, because we cannot be able, one person or a small team, manage all the aspects of the technology used. We need to build partnerships and along with transparency and share information, share knowledge, and be proactive as much as possible, because that's the point there, to be proactive than reactive.
Well, although I think that most of you will be thinking, okay, what about cybersecurity? Take all the measures, create a secure environment, whatever. In order to say something out of the frame, I would say that we should keep it simple and limited. I mean, what I mean by that, I hear a lot of discussion say, I want to test something, I'm going to set up a new server. No, do not set up a new server for nothing. Everything you install, everything you put a cable on, it's a potential threat for you. So I see a lot of companies that, because IT people like me, they like to install things, to test things, to try things. Everything we open, we connect to the internet is a potential threat. So what a suggestion I would give is keep your infrastructure, your productive infrastructure, as minimum as needed. Of course, I'm not saying that do not cover your need, but cover your need. Do not exceed that just because you have the capability. I have a spare computer there, I'm going to set it up. No, do not set it up. And if you want to test it, go home and do whatever you want. Do not jeopardize the integrity of your systems. That's my
Okay,
advice.
so that wraps it up. Any questions from the audience? Do we have? No.
Any audience questions?
Everybody's cyber secure, don't worry.
Wow, okay. We'll end the panel there then. Thank you for the interesting discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is the end of our developments. That is the end of our cybersecurity session. We now begin the developments in vessel performance session. We have Flotus Plashos and Vasiliki Koupali come to the stage.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vasya, and together with Mr. Philotas Paschot, we'll give you a short presentation about how Weather News is dealing with the digitalization of weather data in order to provide a tailored solution for the decision maker via route optimization, weather routing, and associated vegetation in our platform. So a few words about ourselves. So I have a bachelor degree in mathematics and a master's degree in applied meteorology. I'm the function leader Voyage Planner here in Athens office, and with 4 years of experience at Weather News, I expertise in route optimization and daily communication with masters and operators.
Good afternoon from my side as well. My name is Philotas. I'm working as a sales manager in the Greek office of Weather News, mostly focused on the Greek, Turkish, and Cypriot markets. I have a bachelor degrees in physics and 2 master degrees, one in applied meteorology and one in management of crisis and catastrophes. In my previous work experience, I was working as a senior operation meteorologist in the UK Met Office. So we want to give you a bit of information about Weather News. So Weather News is a Japanese company established in 1986 in Tokyo. From the very beginning, actually, we started to provide high-resolution forecasts for the shipping maritime industry. However, through the years, we have evolved quite a lot. So now we are giving forecasts to energy, media, aviation, and risk management services. Over the years, our founder message, actually, that you can see on the picture there, has always the motto of protecting the lives of the sailors. And even nowadays, actually, we keep this motto on the top of our brand, that we want to provide safety for the vessel and for the staff. Throughout these years, Weather News has been evolved significantly. So now we have 32 offices globally, several operation centers around the world, one of the newest one being here in Halandri in Athens. And just to note that we are the only private weather company that has an operation center with meteorologists in the Southeast Europe, accounting more than 15 members of staff. Further to that, we are servicing more than 10,000 vessels per year. That accounts for all the services that we are giving. And we have calculated that through our sophisticated solutions, mostly the advanced route optimization, as well as the CIA management, we have managed to save 2.8 million tons of CO2 on an annual basis. We are being considered as a high-accuracy weather company in the market, and we have more than 400 voyage planners all around the world, covering around the clock 24/7, 365. So one of the main challenges that we are experiencing in the past, and I'm sure it wasn't only Weather News on that, is the amount of data that we're receiving as a company. And not only that, moreover, the way that we were handling them. As you can see on the slide here, we receive thousands of emails, AIS data, noon reports from vessels every day. We're talking about millions on a monthly basis. So what we have managed to do the last few years is to develop sophisticated solutions in order to gather all this information and offer them to our clients in an efficient way. We all know that data is power, and the main thing is to use this power efficiently in order to produce effective solutions for our clients. The immediate result of that is the valuable assistance that we are offering in the decision-making process of our clients, being driven, first of all, by the high-resolution weather model and the data-driven efficiency of our solutions, both of them combined leading towards the risk mitigation, which is the most essential thing nowadays in the shipping market. We know that the last years, even the last decades actually, the shipping industry faces several significant challenges, starting from the unpredictability of the weather due to the climate change, and that implies the need for high-resolution weather models. Going to fuel efficiency, which implies that we need to have advanced route recommendation modules for our customers. Going, of course, to the more newly environmental regulation coming from the IMO and the European Union. And of course, we need to provide solutions for that to our customers as well. And last but not least, we have the geopolitical tensions that have some supply chain disruption. And of course, we want to have some technological advancements, which in reality lead to the digitalization of the shipping industry.
So our one-stop platform gathers all our data in order to provide tailored solutions, including route and vessel performance monitoring, as well as data related to the latest regulations. One way to face unpredictability of the weather, but also fuel consumption, fuel cost challenges in shipping industry is through route optimization. The stepping stone is our own high-resolution weather ocean forecast model, using input from typical sources such as our own two satellites, buoys, upper air, as well as data simulated from a daily report received from vessels under our service. Using this data and input from global models from various agencies, we calculate our own model. After that, we apply various post-processing schemes, including machine learning, to create the risk content relevant to the sector. Sector, I mean wind, wave, sea ice, tropical cyclone forecast, and so on. which is relevant to the risk of the voyage planning. In the graph down there, in here, you can see that a model with high resolution, the red one in this case, has significantly reduced error in the forecast for specific areas around the ocean. A vital role in our forecast and decision-making plays the use of ensemble and probabilistic forecasting techniques, as it allows us to evaluate a range of possible outcomes, different possible outcomes, and enhance the reliability of weather prediction, support with the decision-making and risk assessment. So, in general, probabilistic forecasts provide the additional risk context to the main model output. When we are trying to make a strategy decision, this information provides a critical additional component if the weather will be worse than expected. So in your left-hand side, you can see the graph in there. It's a calculation of the probability that the wind and wave forecast will be higher than the main model output. So it's like an assessment regarding if the weather is expected to be worse than initially forecasted. And similarly with your right-hand side, so you can see in the Eastern Pacific, the red one, we see a likelihood that there is a likelihood for waves to exceed 5.5 meters to the east of where the main model, it's the black one, where the main model forecast those waves. So this might suggest that the area of heavier conditions might shift to the east than initially forecasted. And probabilistic routes, like the image in here, you can see are routes avoiding areas of where the likelihood of exceeding specific threshold, wave threshold, is high. So what we mean by that? The red one is a route that avoids areas when the probabilistic forecast shows 25% probability that waves will be 4 meters more than the current scenario. The blue one shows avoid areas where the probability of waves to be worse than initially forecast, 75%. Understanding from this one, from the probabilistic output, that the red one is a more conservative route, while the blue one is the more aggressive route. I would like to give you an example in here. Two weeks ago, there was in the Gulf of Mexico a Hurricane Helen, Category 4. So one of the members of an overall computer output varied widely between only 6 hours, between its updates, between 6 hours. So this speaks to the importance of not reading too much into individual forecasts, instead relying on ensemble means and probability-based methods. So the members suggested that a truly terrible major Hurricane Helen would impact northwest part of Florida by Thursday 9 a.m. UTC. Perhaps a record-setting storm, which actually Milton was these days, instead of Helen 2 weeks ago. So the exact same member suggested finally that a massively weaker system would hit the area by Thursday 9 a.m. UTC. So the importance of understanding these models and their output is key. Automated routes, taking into account this individual forecast, would have resulted in extreme diversion to avoid the system. However, by utilizing ensemble means and probabilistic forecast, together with a human factor, of course, can ensure safety, but also minimize fuel consumption and of course, CO2 emissions.
So from what we've seen in the previous slide, Vasya explained quite clearly how important it is to have an advanced tool for route recommendation. Even more than that, actually, the ensemble forecasting algorithm that we are implementing in our forecast is giving even better results. So I want to have a question for you. Do you think that we can make a good route recommendation with not very good performance data? Short answer is no. The thing is that we are experiencing such situations like Hurricane Helene or Milton today that is hitting Florida. Almost every day. It might not be a hurricane, it might be just adverse weather conditions. So in heavy weather, we need definitely to know how good or bad the vessel will perform and to advise accordingly the master through the high seas. That is why we have developed our vessel performance monitoring service, which is aiming for optimal efficiency in the decision-making process. So we want to give clear data to the operator about the performance efficiency of their vessels. In order to make our performance monitoring even better, we have partnered with third parties like the VPS, in which we try to leverage through this partnership our voyage optimization and vessel and fuel performance numbers. So apart from that, though, what we have done, which is quite innovative in the weather routing industry, is that we have implemented a new algorithm, which is called VESTA model. This stands, and I have to read that, for Vessel Performance Evaluation Tool in Actual Seas, and has been developed by the Japanese National Maritime Research, with whom WNI is doing joint research the last few years. Main thing for VESTA model is that we are taking the physical parameters and combine them with the ship dynamics of each vessel particularly. So at the end of the day, we're going to have much more clear and much more accurate data for the performance curve, which then can be applied, of course, in the route recommendation, as Vasya mentioned before, to have the better result for the advice. So far, we have very good results. At the moment, I have to note that this VESTA model is being trialed in a few big clients of ours. And so far, the results are very good. Here on the graph, you can see two colored areas. The green one represents in which areas the weather news model is good at. And on the yellowish area, we can see in which areas the VESTA model can add value. And we can see, of course, that the VESTA model, it can predict very easily the ship motion, is considering the ship design, but even more importantly, it gives us the ship speed on heavy weather. So we have noticed that the errors of the speed of the vessel are minimal on heavy weather, which is very, very important for us because this is when the vessel needs our full support for the route recommendation. Now, let us not forget, of course, the emissions performance analysis that is being required by the IMO in the EU. Of course, at the moment, we have the CII, EOI, EU ETS, and now the fuel EU is coming into play from January onwards. What we have done here is that we have in our Sea Navigator, which is a platform that we are using as an all-in-one platform to have all of our services, we have included tools in which we gather all the information coming from the vessels in order to calculate easily the CII indices, with data being very easily extracted by the customer to be submitted to the verifier in case it is needed. The same applies for EU ETS. And we have, all in all, developed quite a lot this platform that's called Sea Navigator. It's a real solution. It's all-in-one platform, as we call it in the company. We wanted to have everything there that the ship operator and either from the operation or the chartering department can go in and take information. Starting from the fleet monitoring with frequent IS data and along with high-resolution weather forecast, going to planning section with CII simulator, voyage planners for future voyages, and as well as sea margin calculators. All the weather and climate data are coming directly from Weather News database. Further to that, there is the option, of course, to see the performance monitoring of your vessel, the commercial performance monitoring, as well as the route optimization with plenty of information as the ones that are going into the vessel. We have the emission dashboard, which you can see in a very much good detail, the attained CII of each of your vessels with quite significant statistics. The same applies for EU ETS and the carbon emission reports. Last but not least, we have a section with statistical analysis that's coming up from all the data that we are receiving constantly from your vessels. We know that, last but not least, just to note that we have very recently generated a mobile version that covers some of these functions. And to be honest with you, this platform is an ongoing development, meaning that we always kindly request the feedback from our customers in order to make it even better. So whenever you have any idea, just drop us an email. So we know that the CPIC industry is moving, it's changing rapidly. So we always want to be one step ahead.
Okay, so in our presentation, you have seen different challenges and how Weather News addresses these challenges in many different ways. So I want to sum it up for you in this slide. Overall, W9 provides a weather routing solution based on our customer needs and probabilistic forecast method for the route optimization, but also support our customers with vessel performance monitoring and continuously trying to comply with new developments and regulation. So if you have any questions, please ask. Otherwise, we'll be happy to see you at our desk. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any audience questions? No? Okay, well, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Dynasty from Kongsberg Digital. He will speak on the digitalization box, What is Insight?
Okay, hello, good afternoon. I'm Dionysios Simakopoulos from Kongsberg Digital. And today we'll talk about what's included in digitalization and how a shipping company can go forward with it. So we'll briefly see what's inside this box, what's the challenges, and finally how to overcome these challenges, win over the situation, and stay flexible and future-proof. So there is a great misconception. I know that this is the vessel performance section of this forum. And the usual misconception is that everything is about the scatter plots. And it will be very easy for me just to come over here, show you some product features, some scatter plots with the speed power curve and how much fuel you will save and the 5% and the 10% of this and that. I'm not going to do that today, because we always miss the other two important things in what we call digitalization, which is data collection, what do you analyze upon, and of course, cybersecurity. Some companies even neglect cybersecurity, and in Matthew's panel we saw that it's super important to actually deal with this. So just to set things straight, it should be like that. To get the performance, we need to have solid data. If you have the best performance tool and poor data, you get nothing, and vice versa, of course. And if you have both the best analysis and the best data without cybersecurity, you risk more than what you're aiming to gain. So here comes the human factor, ourselves. And this goes vertically and horizontally in every company. And Matthew's panel was enlightened on that as well. We have a tech fear, and it usually goes from fear to realization, other people are doing, and then we succeed. The good thing here is that we have done this throughout our life multiple times. This is a loop. Like in the previous loop, we didn't know what internet is, what Excel is, etc., especially for the older ones in the audience. So it's important to loop everyone in the company, from the master to the different departments, and this is a real challenge because throughout our meetings, many times, most of the times actually, the IT people are not there, or they are not invited, although we urge the companies, please bring these guys in, because we're about to talk about products that affect them directly. So this is a real issue, and it has to come, of course, from the management, from the owners, the C-levels, and everyone else that can actually help and bring everyone in the loop. Now let's see what's happening with performance and data. Technology is there, nowadays. We do have Internet of Things, we do have machine learning, we do have the recent crown king called AI and all the implications that it's about to bring. Connectivity, again, it is there. So we can now go and do in shipping everything the other industries are doing successfully over this year, like automobile and aviation, etc. The economic unit of every company is the vessel, which is far away from the office. So now we do have the opportunity to bring the data in, since the LEO and the latest developments democratize the cost and energy we need to have a fast connection. And finally, the regulations. As it was mentioned by an IT manager, it's important that they will push the developments inside the company, a certain template for the IT department to use to persuade the rest of the people to deal with cybersecurity and follow the regulations. So all the tools are actually there. And we do notice a shift from the manual non-reporting systems to telemetry first collection systems. So now we have the opportunity to bring in an actual version of what's happening on board the vessel, of all the OT equipment, and have an actual picture of what we can do to make actual performance and save money, time, and all the good things. Now, in a company's shoes, if you are an operations manager, a technical manager, an IT manager, all of that, you have hundreds of vessels, maybe dozens of vessels, or even 5. It doesn't matter, it's still too much because you have too many systems, too many data pieces coming from new report, logbooks, sensor data, of course, with millions of data points. And then all of that has to come to the office, to different departments, and different mentalities, as I said earlier, and even different mentalities in between the different departments, which makes things even worse. Everyone has a different, of course, objective in the company. The reporting needs, the compliance with regulations coming and coming and coming. Then, of course, data providers, and you need to do all that with cybersecurity in mind. So this is where you can outsource, because you cannot do everything by your own. Sometimes you have to outsource, and this is just an overview of the digital market. And our research here shows around 500 companies, over than that. Obviously, I wouldn't like to be in your shoes, because that means that you have to make 500 meetings with solutions that can cover some of your problems, some others won't. But again, it's too much. You have to choose 1, 2, 3 solutions. You cannot go choose 100 solutions. So the chances of succeeding are very thin, and you risk that if you make a choice that doesn't fit the company, or if the company that you choose deviates, does something else, gets merged, or shuts down operations, then you will have wasted time and money practically for nothing. And you have to do it all over again. So all of that, if I had a picture, it will be, and a title, it will be, it's like a chaos. I mean, it's too many things, and the companies usually don't have the right personnel to deal with every one of those needs and have them all together. So what we have at the end is complex systems, which is difficult to scale up and maintain, especially if you have many vessels. It's very difficult to have something coherent. Then you get garbage data. If you really think how many OT equipment, how many pieces of OT equipment you have on board, then you know that one maker has a software for the engine, another for the turbocharger, another for the flow meters, and the list goes on forever. So what you get is, if you get the solution, you might have a server here, a server there, a cloud here, another cloud there. In order to integrate all that and have a solid data set, which is in the same timestamp, synchronized, etc., it's impossible actually to do it. And all of these interactions create too many security loopholes. Again, security is super important, as we have heard throughout the day. So what can we do to see inside of this box and win the situation, be flexible, and at the same time be future-proof? Because whatever you do now, it will be with you. It's not a one-time exercise. I'm not going to talk about the product. I will mostly talk about the concept and how you build a digital strategy, which you should base upon all your decisions to achieve what I just said about digital. So we have Kongsberg Digital is dealing a lot with data collection because it's natural for the Kongsberg Group that is doing data collection and cybersecurity before they become buzzwords. So we do have a very solid data collection infrastructure, which means that with only one piece of hardware, you can gather all of the OT equipment in one place on board. And this is real-time data, so it's high-frequency real-time data. Of course, agnostic of the equipment, because we need to cover your whole fleet and not only Kongsberg equipment. It applies to everything. With this data, having high-frequency data, telemetry, you can populate the rest of the manual entries. The logbooks, you know how much trouble is for the crew, and it's data that you never get in the office, right? It's just lost data. And of course, the noon reports. We do have our own ERP, which is 50 years in the market, and our logbooks are type approved since 2007. So we do have a lot of experience on that. If you do have a solution in place, it doesn't matter because you can integrate with any solution you might already have. So this is the first step and the layer of the data collection part. It's actually a foundation that you can build and actually make the performance make sense. Now we take all of this data and bring them to one cloud. And what we do in this cloud is that we standardized everything for you. It's in the same format. So you can compare apple to apples and not different data coming from different vendors in different places. And of course, we can fetch both manual data and sensor data in order to have a full overview, because you might have a diverse fleet with older vessels that sensor data might not work, or you might intend to sell the vessel. It doesn't make sense to invest. And of course, we can bring in any external sources. The whole concept here is that this is your company. You don't care about the software, who has the software, who has everything else, but this layer, it's your company. So you have one point of data entry, so one single truth of data. And then you have one cloud to gather everything up. And from this point, we are ready to go and make the performance that is meaningful, and you will reap the benefits that everyone is promising in digital. So now you have a work surface with your data, and you can choose. Actually, that's the part that we keep you flexible, as I said earlier. Like you can use our own applications up in the left. We have the K-Fleet Code Solutions, it's a Kongsberg company. And of course, we have a plethora of applications that we have partnerships with, from OEM makers, engine makers, turbochargers, to other software houses, third-party vendors, even startups. So you have a lot of options that integrate smoothly with your data. And of course, the point is not to limit you, either to our application, neither to our partners. You can use them for your own purposes, for an internal developed software, or wherever else you would like to send them. The good thing about this is that wherever you stand, I guess in these three images I depicted earlier with the fear, etc., you can use any path in this image that you see. So let's say you start a company from scratch, we can equip you with an ERP, the logbooks, the high-frequency data, and then use our own application, so you have a turnkey solution. If you do have your own application and you are only in the upper part, so your data layer and collection is thin, we can come bottoms up and equip you with a solid data collector. So it doesn't matter where you stand, because we can integrate with our data, we can provide our own, and of course we can work with our own applications or others. And this is true flexibility. The good thing, of course, that supports this is, okay, the Kongsberg Group, that this product will be here for the years to come. And I have to say here that the data is yours. It's not, we don't mess with the data. It's in the cloud, we just host it for you. So have control of your own data. Now, I mentioned earlier future-proof. Future-proof means that no matter what happens, we got you covered. This is the first data collection infrastructure ever to be type approved by DNV. In fact, Kongsberg Digital sat down with DNV and created the DINF based on the vessel inside data collection system, and of course from ABS. And it's already Ajax EU 27 compliant, etc. So this means that you don't have to go again, change the system if something changes or anything. We got you covered. That's why it's very important to be mentioned. Sorry for that. Now, since you have one source of truth, everything goes to one cloud, and you have the flexibility to work with everyone and be future-proof on regulations, what you achieve is far more than this 5% on the fuel. Obviously, you cut the OPEX. Obviously, the office people and the crew that are always on red, don't have time, etc., they can actually save time because you get one piece of information to fill out everything vertically in the company. You can save from compliance. Of course, transparency is a touchy matter that you can adjust the level that you want it to be transparent, internally, externally, and whatever you choose. And of course, you have the chance to fight back again all this overwhelming digital market, because if you have the data yourself, you have your baseline of your vessels with you, not with any other vendor. So having the data, you can actually choose which vendor you like. And if you make a choice and it doesn't fly, you can always shift or add another one. So if I have some takeaways, is that data is a centerpiece in digitalization. There cannot be any digitalization without data. Even AI, you need to feed it with data. It's obvious. You need to take a step back, think of the digital strategy to go 2 steps forward. So be safe, be flexible, and be future-proof in whatever you choose to do on digital. And of course, do it once and do it right. Because if you make a choice and then you add on some features here, some things there, another vendor, then it gets so much, it's too much. And eventually down the line, when something will become compulsory from the regulations, you will eventually have to go back and undo what you have done, which costs time and money. And we see that a lot in the new buildings, that everything is approved and in line as it should be. And it helps a lot to have a solid data collection system and the flexibility to use it as you like. So that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any audience questions before the break? In that case, we will end here for the coffee break. It is sponsored by Duralog, and please be back in the room for 3:50. What is this? Oh.
Along with that, we have a small prize, one of you guys. So let's pick from the cards here. Chris Koustenis from Laskaridis. Is he here? Outside? Outside? All right. That's it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the final part of the day. I hope you enjoyed your coffee break. Our next session will be delivered by Risto Yanni Kaufri Ranta. I'll welcome him to the stage now.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Matt. Okay, can I get the slides visible here? All right. Okay, nice to be here. My name is Risto Kariranta, as said, and I'm representing a company called Ahti Climate, which is a company focusing on emission compliance cost optimization. And yeah, this business area of emission compliance cost optimization is definitely something new. We haven't had any major cost implications for the ship emissions until beginning of this year, when EU ETS started to play a role. And then next year we expect this new regulation called FuelEU Maritime that through low carbon fuel mandate will have another cost impact basically derived from the emissions of the vessel. And yeah, that's what we do. So we help our customers to basically minimize the cost for these compliance matters for emissions, and let's take a look on a little bit more on the details. So at the moment we are focusing mostly on the FuelEU Maritime regulation. As said, it's going to be started next year, January, and the basic concept there is that each and every ship that is calling European ports have to reduce the carbon intensity of the energy consumed on board by 2%. And this applies basically for the same vessels as emission trading system that started today for this year for shipping, so bigger than 5,000 GT vessels, and calculating 100% of the energy consumed on the voyages between the European ports, and then 50% from the voyages that are starting outside of Europe, ending to Europe, or vice versa. Yet there are some quite major differences compared to this EU ETS regulation. So first of all, if you consider how to calculate the emissions in this regulation, it's completely different. So while in EU ETS we in a way calculate the shipboard emissions, here we have to take into account also the production and distribution emissions, and this methodology is called well-to-wake, so basically including in a way the life cycle emissions of the energy consumed. And not only carbon dioxide, but in this case also methane and N2O are part of the regulation. And who is responsible? So here there is minor difference here compared to EU ETS. So here they say still that shipping companies, so basically DOC holder, ISM company, is ultimately in charge of the compliance, and unlike with the EU ETS where they last minute changed the regulation text to refer to the ship owner, but this change is not expected to happen with this regulation. But this responsibility for the compliance is interesting question in a way that we also have setups where vessels are being time chartered for longer time periods for the charterers, and charterers typically pay for the fuel in this kind of situation, and therefore they have in a way the considering the consumption of the low carbon fuels, they have the kind of a key role there, because while they are buying the fuel, so that creates a kind of a new, quite interesting angle between the relationship between the shipping company and the possible long-term time charters. And the regulation itself has this so-called cost transfer clause. So basically, by the regulation, the shipping company is allowed to transfer the costs for the charterers. And there has been a lot of discussions already that how this will in practice happen, and many shipping companies are planning to transfer all the costs based on the penalty calculation for the charterers here. But then we have also heard the other side of the story, where the charterers are starting to say that they necessarily do not accept full penalty-based compensation for the compliance costs, but rather would encourage the shipping companies to consume, for example, biodiesels, or in some cases also encouraging them to put the vessels in a fuel maritime pool that we will discuss shortly, in order to enable lower compliance costs. And the penalty here is quite tangible, so basically it's calculated based on the energy content of VLSFO. So non-compliance unit cost basically 2,400 euros per relevant energy unit. So it's quite tangible. So meaning that complying with, for example, biodiesel, roughly we could estimate that it's cost like half of the penalties at the moment, and then with the so-called advanced low carbon fuels, it could be like 2/3 or even 1/3 of the penalty cost. So basically possibilities to reduce the cost of compliance quite dramatically if doing something else than paying the penalties. And the most considered options for complying in this regulation, as we discussed, so paying the penalties, this is definitely something I know some shipping companies are considering. The benefit is that, okay, it's a predictable cost, but downside is that the penalty cost is higher than complying with the other means. Some shipping companies also think that this is in a way to borrow money from the charterers. So if you basically put in your freight invoice the penalty cost-based addition, and you need to pay the penalties actually only like after half a year after the reporting year has ended. So that's also some considerations we have heard. Then another way of complying is using, for example, biodiesel, which is a drop-in solution in a sense that technically it should be possible to consume on any traditional vessel. But again, there are some doubts that I also know that some of the shipping companies do not like this option. They consider, the technical departments are saying that they don't want to go for this biodiesel. It brings some risk for their engine condition, and so there are some reservations also for this option, even though it seems quite convenient at the moment. The price level has been this year quite low for biodiesel, but what it will be next year is very big question mark. So we definitely expect quite big increase in demand of biodiesel within, first of all, the shipping market in Europe, and then secondly, at the same time, there are other industries that like air traffic industry have their sustainable aviation fuel mandate starting also next year, and we expect that they will be consuming same feedstock for these biofuels that shipping would be consuming. So there will be kind of two big systems increasing the demand at the same time, which in many cases indicates that the prices are increasing, but time will tell. Then the third option is to have a dual fuel vessel. So basically, at the moment, the most popular solutions are dual fuel LNG and methanol. Ammonia is there. Some companies are preparing readiness for consuming that, but I would say the technical maturity of that solution is not there yet for next year in a big scale. So, but the good side of those solutions is that at the moment it seems that if you think about the pure operational cost, then for example, bio-LNG or green methanol, the unit cost for the compliance is can be significantly lower than even with the biodiesel. But then, on the other hand, you have the capex investment, so this is the downside. And third option, the fourth option that we have mentioning here is that this regulation is allowing pooling of compliance. So it basically means that instead of individual vessels doing actions, ships can form a pool, and then the low carbon fuel efforts can be focused on certain individual vessels, which can then distribute the compliance for the remaining vessels. And there the benefit is, of course, that most of the vessels, those who are then continuing using the conventional fuels, can basically enjoy the compliance without doing major actions, trying to source some biofuels or anything like that. And the cost of such arrangement is so at the moment very effective. So, for example, pools we are working with at the moment, we have there the compliance producer vessels consuming the best possible bio-LNG, so we can offer the compliance there with significantly lower cost than by consuming biodiesel. So here is one schematic picture of how this kind of pool works. So basically you have there, for example, one ultra low carbon vessel fuel consuming vessel producing enough compliance to support quite significant amount of vessels that can continue consuming the conventional fuels, and that brings this kind of economy for this kind of setup. So even though the cost for this one individual vessels are super high, but when we in a way spread the cost over the whole pool, it is by default it's win-win for both parties. So basically those who are in demand and who are supplying. So it makes economical sense in most of the cases. And just to show a little bit how that looks like. So if you look at compared to the penalty price, we can estimate that, for example, if you consume MDO, your penalty cost for ton of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions in these regulations are somewhere above $600 per ton. Then with this kind of pooled compliance, you can gain significant reduction on the cost. And this pooling can be arranged on several different ways. I know that there are setups where it's more acting like as a marketplace, so that you put some requests or supply for sale in a marketplace, and then try to find the partners for this kind of pooling setup. The pool setup we are working on is more holistic setup. So basically it means that there is a pool manager handling this fuel-EU maritime topic for the vessels that are in the pool. So basically watching out that the partners in this pooling arrangement are following the rules, all the transactions are going smoothly. We can verify that the compliance really being produced, and by the end of the year we then support the pool to finalize the pool verification. And the basic concept here is to basically throughout the pooling year receive the emission reports after every voyage and validate the figures together with the third-party verifier, so that there can be security that the compliance balance calculations are done properly, and then we do not expect any major changes after the final verification round. And now that we are in a digital shipping event, it's good to reflect what does it mean for the requirements for the digital environment. So basically, one of the things here is that if we compare, for example, for EU MRV reporting, we need to add some new parameters. Those are not finalized yet by the regulator, but there will be need for adding carbon intensity for all the fuels consumed on board the vessel, the LCV of the fuel. And then also another aspect, so if you are going to this kind of consume low carbon fuels, if that's your strategy, then you need another setup for handling the certificates of the fuel. So the fuel certification plays a key role in this regulation, so it's kind of a final proof that the low carbon fuel has been produced in a way that the verifiers can accept the carbon reducing impact of that fuel in the final verification. So here is some schematics how this could work. So basically, typically we have the pool participants having some kind of data collection system. And in many cases nowadays, we ask them to send that data after every voyage directly to the verifier. So we have nowadays verifiers that have this kind of active systems where they can receive on a voyage basis the data and put a stamp on the validity of the data, and then those systems luckily have these kind of API possibilities, so with the permission of the data owner, so the ship, they are then allowed to give a permit, for example, us as a pool manager get the data from the verifier system. But this can be organized on several different ways. This is just one example. And what kind of features are needed for this FuelEU maritime management? This is of course different for every company, but basically what kind of solutions we have provided is in the middle we have basically the planning calculations. So basically, first of all, creating scenarios. How do you want to comply? What would be the cost impact of each scenario? So validating that what is the path for most low-cost compliance. And then when the actual pool is running, then of course we need to have some tools for monitoring that the pool is compliant and what is the pool balance, manage the transaction. So if we transfer really some compliance from producer vessels to those vessels who are in demand, so it requires of course transaction management with the proper data security and audit trails. And then maybe for a practical use on a daily basis in a shipping company, one very important thing is also to have these calculations running on a voyage level, so that in case, for example, if you have a ship and you have agreed with your charter that you will charge the cost based on the actual compliance cost, then having the calculation in place so that you can say that, okay, on this particular voyage, with the method of complying we used, the cost was roughly this one. So it's a very small number here, but here we have basically for one voyage calculated the value based on the penalty, and then for this company consuming this kind of pooled compliance, what is the cost for this individual voyage. So then this is possible to then transfer to the charterer for the invoices. And the contractual structure is of course very, very important. So having a pool, it's requires certain contract framework. So pool rules is one thing. Then what we at least support is accession agreement. So basically meaning the on which terms the vessel is joining the pool. And then the third quite important document that is not directly related to the daily operations of the pool is what we call assignment agreement. And this is a a document or agreement that we have prepared for our major charter customers who want to bring their long-term time-chartered vessels to the pool. And there you agree between the shipping company and the charter that the charter basically has the right as being the payer of the cost, then place the ship in the pool they desire with the permission of the shipping company. So these kind of agreements are things that we start to see more in the future. I know that there is also BIMCO is preparing some clauses, but that seems to be more on the short-term time charter that those clauses are now focusing in the first place, not so much on this pooling. Okay, I've spent my time slot. I hope we have time for one or two questions. Do you have any from the audience?
We have one question over here.
Thank you. How do you handle the problem of fouling in the contracts?
Fouling?
Yes.
You mean hull fouling?
I mean that in the contract there are penalties if the performance of a vessel is below it is expected, or it's a bonus if it performs better.
Yeah, okay.
And you usually, as far as I know, the contractor carries out a test, and on the basis of these tests, charges, decides about the performance of the vessel.
Yeah. Okay, I think I got what you're asking. In this kind of fuel maritime pool, which is of course very different from a traditional shipping pool, where I see the need for this kind of fouling clause. Here the fouling doesn't play that role. So basically, it means that the benefit of having a clean hull, basically, in this kind of pool setup, it comes directly for the ship itself. So basically, now when we are calculating the carbon intensity, at how much compliance you need to transfer, if you have a vessel that has very fouled hull and it consumes more energy, the higher automatically the compliance cost will be. So basically, we have to calculate the total energy consumption of each vessel and the carbon intensity. So in a way, we do not need separate fouling clause here, but definitely it benefits all the ships that are keeping their hulls clean, because it directly means lower energy consumption and lower compliance costs.
Okay. Any other questions? In that case, we will move on. Thank you, Risto.
Thank you.
Our next talk will be presented by Nicholas Soulakos. He will speak on the role of digitalisation in driving compliance with Fuel EU Maritime. Please welcome him to the stage.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tsoulakos Nicholas. I'm Innovation and Technology Manager in Laskaridis Shipping. My presentation today, the title of my presentation is the role of digitalization in driving compliance with Fuel EU Maritime. Actually, it was a very nice presentation, and I'm happy that it was before my presentation, because I will focus mostly on the digitalization part and how digitalization is connected with these new regulations. So, to begin with, these three words are buzzwords, and we need to know the difference between digitization, digital transformation, and digitalization. So digitization is the process of converting analog information streams into digital bits of ones and zeros with discrete and discontinuous values. While digital transformation is a fundamental change process enabled by the innovative use of digital technologies, aiming to radically improve an entity, either an organization, a business network, etc. And of course, we define its value proposition for all stakeholders. And digitalization is the application of digital technologies and business, society, and economy, and is characterized by features such as the increased data availability, accessibility, interoperability, connectivity, and efficient data communication, computation, storage that allow, of course, easier delivery and manipulation of a product or a service. Okay, here's the evolution of digitalization. You can see that from 1960 it starts, and defining the smart ship and the autonomous ship, which is the evolution of the conventional ship, let's say. A smart ship is a ship which adopts computerized systems for monitoring navigational equipment and machinery. While autonomous ship is a ship equipped with appropriate systems which can manipulate the ship and make decisions on changes in control configuration with either limited or without any human intervention. Okay, now why we're speaking about digitalization? There are several benefits, several reasons. Here I have listed some of the reasons. We can improve our carbon intensity index through close monitoring, optimizing service quality, enhancing education and training, improving the whole business process within an organization or company, increasing, of course, competitiveness, satisfying customer needs, increasing cost efficiency, contributing to sustainable value creation, optimizing supply chain. I'm just reading that because I'm going to analyze later. Minimizing operational costs, minimizing crew costs, reducing waiting time, reducing, this is the most important maybe, fuel oil consumption, improving weather routing, and improving claims handling. I could spend hours analyzing one by one all these reasons why you use digitalization. I'm pretty sure that the majority of the people in this room are already aware about the benefits of digitalization. This is why we are here. So, little things about our company. Laskaridis Shipping is a traditional shipping company owning and managing 45 modern bulk carriers and 21 reefer vessels, and we trade worldwide. Oh, this is something a typical. Of course, our company forgot to mention that our company is equipped with high-frequency data collection systems, and this is how it works. The digitalization system installed on board through a cloud server, of course, transmitting data through that. Are being collected through sensors, and we are talking about, let's say, 300 sensors installed on board from standard points, and then we collect them through a cloud in the shipping company, and we analyze them. We have a whole department doing this job, our performance department. Our fleet is consisted of 11 Ultramaxes, 8 Panamaxes, 10 Kamsar Maxes, 1 Post-Panamax, 1 Mini Cape, 1 Cape size, and 3 Newcastle Maxes that are fully digitalized, meaning 35 out of 45 vessels. It's almost 80%. And we use several data collection systems. Okay, here I have some images just to show you how we monitor our fleet. I'm not gonna stay on this. This is general info about digitalization and how it's working. Now I'm gonna focus a little bit on fuel EU maritime and digitalization. I don't know why this is happening there. Okay, anyway. Fuel EU Maritime focuses on promoting the use of cleaner fuels and improving the energy efficiency of ships to reduce their greenhouse gases emissions. It sets limits, let's say, on the carbon intensity of energy used by ships, aiming to lower the environmental impact of the maritime industry. This regulation requires ships to reduce their reliance on fossil fuels and adopt alternative energy sources. This is not something different that Risto mentioned before. To ensure compliance with Fuel EU Maritime regulations, shipping companies can leverage several technological solutions and strategies. So here are some of the technical solutions. First of all, through the transition to alternative fuels, and more particularly to low carbon or zero carbon fuels, such as biofuels, LNG, hydrogen or ammonia, or through hybrid propulsion systems by combining traditional and alternative energy sources. Secondly, by using data-driven monitoring and reporting systems, meaning real-time, on the one hand, real-time emission monitoring systems, where we are referring to the implementation of advanced sensor technologies to monitor fuel oil consumption and CO2 emissions in real time, as well as, on the other hand, automated reporting systems aiming to automate the collection, reporting and verification of emissions data, aligning with regulatory reporting requirements under the EU Monitoring, Reporting and Verification, the well-known MRV, regulation. As you know, MRV provides the emissions data infrastructure needed to implement and enforce Fuel EU Maritime in this case. The two systems can work together. MRV ensures accurate reporting of emissions, and Fuel EU Maritime uses this data to enforce decarbonization, let's say, strategies, encouraging cleaner fuel use and greater operational efficiency in the whole shipping industry. In addition, shipping companies might install energy management systems, platforms that will track energy usage, or carbon intensity indicator, CII, compliance software that will track and predict a vessel's carbon intensity indicator score and optimize fuel efficiency through data analytics. These systems help ensure the ship remains compliant with performance-based standards, and recommend operational adjustments when and if necessary. Other innovative technologies such as air lubrication systems, energy-saving devices, wind-assisted propulsion systems, carbon capture and storage systems, waste heat recovery systems, and of course, we should not forget the next generator hull coatings. I mean the silicon-based or the graphene-based hull coatings, which can reduce greenhouse gas emissions and contribute to compliance with FuelEU maritime regulations. We should not overlook the role of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence was mentioned in the first part of this conference. And of course, machine learning tools, which enable the prediction of optimal routing and speed management, thereby reducing unnecessary fuel oil consumption. Machine learning algorithms can learn from past voyages to further optimize fuel efficiency by considering, let's say, factors such as weather conditions, ocean currents, or even ship loading. Lastly, another key solution is the adoption of digital twin technology to simulate and optimize vessel performance. These virtual replicas of ships allow for modeling different fuel usage scenarios, optimizing, of course, engine performance and predicting maintenance needs, which ultimately helps reduce overall emissions. By integrating these technologies, shipping companies can actively manage their emissions profiles and ensure adherence to FuelEU maritime regulations while advancing their digital transformation goals. And here I have included the weather routing optimization, the engine performance optimization, navigation optimization, hull optimization, energy consumption reduction, and the fuel oil monitoring and reduction. All these contribute to the voyage optimization. In most cases, voyage optimization is charterers are looking how to optimize the voyage in most cases. So owner, is not so actively, let's say, involved. However, all ship owners are checking for the CII, and now we'll check for the emissions, greenhouse emissions reduction. Indirectly, we are talking about a voyage optimization. All these, of course, result in an effective greenhouse gas emissions management. And of course, an effective greenhouse gases emissions management can ensure the adherence to FuelEU maritime regulations while advancing their digital transformation goals at the same time. Now, how digitalization, let's say, is connected with FuelEU maritime? I mean, how it's really connected, what digital tools can we use, and can these digital tools help reduce greenhouse gas emissions? Digitalization, same. I don't know why the picture is above the title. Anyway, digitalization is closely connected to the FuelEU Maritime Initiative because it offers tools and technologies that can enhance efficiency, optimize operations, and of course reduce greenhouse gas emissions in shipping. The core idea of FuelEU Maritime is to reduce the maritime sector's carbon footprint by promoting the use of sustainable fuels and improving energy efficiency. Digital tools play a critical role in achieving these goals by enabling better monitoring, data analytics, and decision-making processes, and to say it better, decision support system and processes. Now, digital tools can help ships transition to low carbon or alternative fuels by providing data-driven insights into fuel efficiency, fuel availability, and cost effectiveness. For example, digital platforms can recommend the best ports, let's say, for refueling based on available alternative fuels like LNG, hydrogen, or biofuels. These tools can also help ship owners stay ahead of evolving regulations by continuously monitoring their carbon footprints and suggesting the optimal routes, the optimal times to switch to alternative fuels for compliance with FuelEU maritime regulations. Digital tools that use predictive maintenance technology can prevent equipment failure, for example, and ensure ships operate at maximum efficiency. This is happening by avoiding breakdowns and ensuring optimal engine performance. Fuel use, of course, is reduced, which, of course, contributes to lower emissions. Now, regarding digital platforms I mentioned there, digital platforms enable better integration between ships, ports, and supply chains, leading to more efficient port calls, reduced waiting times, and optimized cargo handling. This, again, minimizes fuel consumption during idle times and port operation directly. This leads to a reduction of emissions as well. Moreover, by using digital simulation tools and artificial intelligence powered forecasting models, shipping companies can predict future emissions based on different operational scenarios. These tools can help them make accurate and informed decisions on fleet upgrades or fuel transitions to stay in line with FuelEU maritime greenhouse gas reduction targets. Digitalization, this is something to conclude, is an essential enabler for achieving the goals of FuelEU Maritime by providing all these tools I have mentioned before. And in an era, where digitalization and sustainability go hand in hand, embracing the FuelEU Maritime Initiative is not just a regulatory requirement. It is an opportunity to innovate, reduce emissions, and lead the maritime industry into a greener future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience before we move on? No? Okay. Well, thank you, Nicholas. So we have our final speaker of the day now. This is Christos Papadroulo, who will speak on AI, changing the game today and tomorrow.
Hello. Perfect. Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for being here today. It's an exciting time to be part of the maritime industry, where technological advancements are transforming the way we operate, we manage, and optimize our vessels. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christos Papandreou, and I'm currently the Senior Fleet Performance Engineer in Deep Sea. Before that, I was working again in environmental and performance management in StormGeo, and even before, I was part of Athenians Sea Carriers for many years as the energy efficiency and fleet performance engineer. My background is naval architecture and marine engineering from NTUA. In today's session, I would like to talk about AI, as you see here, changing the game today and tomorrow. More specifically, we will explore how AI as a tool has unlocked new levels of insight into vessel performance. With such a tool, we can analyze massive amounts of data in real time, predict potential issues even before they become problems, optimize operations in ways that previously impossible, and actually open the path towards autonomous navigation. So let's dive in and explore how AI is shaping the future of our industry. Before AI and advanced analytics, we were essentially in the dark. This period, which I would like to call the dark ages of vessel performance management, was characterized by lack of actual insight into vessel performance. I bet almost all of you remember cases where we need to create these speed consumption tables for the charter party. And these tables were derived from the experience of operational managers, captains, technical managers, etc. And to be honest, they did a pretty good job on that, but it is not the most optimal way. We didn't have the massive amounts of data we can now collect or the tools to analyze them effectively. We were uncertain about key factors of the fuel, like fuel consumption, like fouling levels, like weather impact, or how to predict the behavior of the vessels in different situations. As a result, we often found ourselves guessing or relying into incomplete information when it came to these charter party warranties, retrofitting decisions, or voyage planning. This uncertainty made it difficult to ensure optimal performance, leading to higher operational costs and inefficiencies. Environmental performance, a critical aspect of the modern shipping, was often overlooked because we simply didn't have the necessary insight. Essentially, we had limited visibility into the very systems that drive vessel performance. As I mentioned before, one of the core challenges in the past was the lack of reliable high-frequency data. The high-frequency part has now been solved, but without accurate data, improving vessel performance is almost an impossible task. AI as a tool became truly powerful the moment we started collecting large volumes of real-time data from the vessels. This data gave us the visibility we needed to measure, analyze, and optimize performance, finally allowing us to improve what we couldn't measure before. However, we should never forget that data accuracy is a critical aspect. I mean, there is this concept, now we have tons of data. Let's take them, throw them to the models, and magically they will turn up to viable results. But this is not the case. It is up to us to establish robust procedures in data accuracy. Now, I don't know what you guys think, but I believe we have come a long way from those dark ages. Today, we're fully connected with the vessel in a way we couldn't have imagined before. With AI models in place, we can now assess a vessel continuous with remarkable precision. We are able to accurately analyze the vessel of fouling and understand how different operational conditions affect our vessels. I'm sure many of you have seen firsthand how this technology helps with optimal routing, leading to more efficient voyages and savings. From main engine models that detect issues the moment they arise, up to real-time data that let us create these charter party consumption tables, we shifted from uncertainty to full control. I think you will all agree that being able to assess the retrofit impact or the best time slot to conduct a hull cleaning has transformed the way we operate. And as we look into the future, I think it is interesting to consider two distinct approaches that are emerging in our industry. The first approach is a top-down vision, where we envision, design, and build the ship of the future. Companies like Wallenius Wilhelmsen with the ocean bird concept are prominent example of this. They're envisioning a vessel that redefines everything from structure to propulsion, almost everything, all in one big leap. On the other hand, there is this bottom-up approach, which is more incremental. In this model, we focus on day-to-day problems that ships are facing, and we respond with automated features on these problems. It's similar to how, the car industry evolved from full manual control to simple cruise control, and today's almost self-driving vehicles. Now, I don't know how you guys see it, but both approaches certainly have their own merits. However, if we want to tackle real, everyday problems that shipping companies are facing, we need to focus on the bottom-up approach. It's about providing immediate practical solutions rather than waiting for, a futuristic overhaul. And as a proof that we at Deep Sea have chosen the second approach, and the proof about that is already here. We are currently running projects that, with actual vessel that integrates this cruise control technology. The system can load the speed profile of the voyage, the optimal speed profile of the voyage, and communicate it directly with the main engine, completely removing human intervention. But you will ask now, why did we put so much effort into pursuing this? It comes not from a grand idea, but from a real-world observation. And a real-world observation to a problem that actually many of you might be dealing with it right now. We saw that speed optimization is a very powerful and low-cost way of rapidly reducing the vessel energy requirements. Great, but we also saw that this introduces a repetitive task in the long list of repetitive tasks for the bridge crew. Monitoring that a particular speed is maintained and always kept the same while the conditions around the vessel change. We saw also that the more accurately a speed plan is followed, the greater the impact of the fuel consumption. And as a result, it was a no-brainer for us to develop a tool that could both solve the problem for the crew, but also increase the effectiveness of our approach. This is the kind of incremental innovation, the bottom-up approach, that is solving real-world problems right now. Now, I don't know, what do you believe is the next big thing towards autonomous sailing? But my humble opinion is a vessel that can plan its own route, a vessel that can entirely on its own go to the next port. And this means inputting just the destination port and letting the ship plan and follow the optimal route. It sounds, of course, I know, it sounds futuristic, but we're getting closer to that every day. To achieve this, there are a few key milestones we need first to hit. One of them is that we need to be models that understand ship dynamics. These models must cover both the maneuvering and the seakeeping aspect, essentially predicting how the vessel will move in different conditions and environments. Next, these models must adapt constantly to changing environments. A ship, of course, as you know, is not always operating under the same conditions. Different weather, different currents, different draft, different fouling levels, even different noise in the data it perceives. So the models need to reflect that flexibility. And finally, final prerequisite is obstacle avoidance. The vessel must detect and avoid any obstacle in its path, just like any human crew would. Together, these three elements are fundamental for autonomous navigation. And I'm glad that there is actions taken on this, and the mass code is being prepared towards that direction. Some of these things I just mentioned are worked by us, some by others, but they're all part of achieving this major industry goal towards autonomous sailing. Okay, disclaimer. Don't worry about understanding this slide. It's just snapshots from the headaches we face all day. Now, since one of our primary long-term goals in deep sea is to contributing to autonomous navigation. We have already started building these models I was talking about in the previous slide. Of course, it's not an easy task, but we have made significant progress, especially in the first two prerequisites, ship dynamics and adaptability. And let me explain a bit about this approach. We know that autonomous navigation systems need tailored maneuvering and seakeeping models for accurate motion prediction. But here's the challenge. Models based purely on physical laws often miss the nuances of how specific ships behave in real-world conditions. On the other hand, pure data-driven models, while specific to the vessel, can be black boxes prone to unpredictable behavior in rare or unexpected conditions. That's why we are working on a hybrid model. This combines the strength of both approaches. The foundation is based on physics, equations that govern the motion of the vessel, but the parameters are tailored using real-world data. This way, we ensure that the models are accurate for each particular vessel, always follows the laws of physics, while still being adaptable to changing conditions. Needless to say, these models require thorough testing. That's why we're not only planning to test them in simulators, like you will see in the next slide, or scaled models, but also in real vessels, actual vessels, so as to fine-tune the whole system. It's a big challenge, we know, but each step brings us closer to our ultimate goal. Let's now see an actual demonstration how we can run a vessel autonomously while approaching a port for berthing. Here you can see our model running through a controller in a simulation environment. The controller gives the commands for RPM, rudder angle, thrusters, all commands to our model. There are also some mild environmental conditions included. This map simulation in general is actually based in a real port in Japan. You can see the sea, the vessel, the pier, everything is here, but let's explain some more things. You can see our vessel, which is the moving orange object. We can see the threshold that our vessel is allowed to sail in the light yellow highlighted area. We can see the reference path that our vessel needs to follow with the yellow line and the actual path that our vessel indeed follow with the black line. Lastly, although not so important for you, but it is for us, this small green line is our model's prediction of the trajectory of the vessel, having as an input the commands of our controller. It is prominent that I must now stress out the importance of this demonstration. It is crucial because it's not just a random fake simulation. It is inside a real port. And if the vessel does not comply to its path, then the risk for collision with another vessel, collision with an object, the pier, or the risk for even grounding is very high. Fortunately, as you are currently seeing, this time the result was successful, but it's not like that in all scenarios yet. You know, we must make our models and controllers successful in all scenarios, else, of course, they cannot be used in autonomous vessels. But what lies ahead is far more exciting. And it is exciting because apart from the hurdles we need to overcome in this kind of projects, the interesting part actually is that we're going to implement all this work to make autonomous shipping a reality, to see an actual commercial vessel going by itself through partially the contribution of our current work. And for me, this is at least exciting. And now we'll stop being so talkative. Thank you very much for your attention and gladly reply to any questions.
Great, thank you. Do we have any audience questions this time? Okay, we'll move on to the last panel session of the day. Thank you, Christos. So I'd like to invite the panelist and moderator to the stage now. There will be a short panel discussion hosted by Deep Sea on innovative approaches to boosting vessel efficiency.
Am I okay here?
Yeah, yeah, we're good.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Thank you for being here. My name is Steve Alisandratos. I'm from Arcon Maritime. And we're here to discuss a very interesting topic, innovative approaches to boosting vessel efficiency. And we have three esteemed panelists here that know the topic very well. To my right, I have Angus Whiston, Communications Director from Deep Seas. Right of him is Konstantinos Kordas, Energy Efficiency Manager and Engineer from you're Vasilis. Sorry, Vasilis Petousis from Synergy. He's an Energy and Sustainability Manager. And then we have Konstantinos Kordas, Energy Efficiency Engineer from Neptune Lines. We're going to start this discussion with our first question, which is basically, what does an innovative approach to vessel efficiency mean to you? So if you like, maybe we can start with Konstantinos.
Thank you, Steve. So, innovative approach is a little bit different from the innovative technology. We have seen many innovative technologies being applied in maritime over the last years with significant benefits. What we would consider the innovative approach, which has made a big difference in our company, in Neptune Lines, and I would say it has restructured the whole company. We have even created a new department, is digitalization. We have created a digital transformation department, and what we have tried to do is to make every decision taken into the company to be data-driven. So this is the biggest change we have and the biggest innovation, let's say, that we have done, and it has been implemented in every aspect of the company. It is applied in the low-level daily tasks. For example, when an operator needs to give an instruction for speed to a vessel, he's going to consult a digital platform which is going to guide him to give the appropriate instruction. When he's trying to design a route, he's going to do the same. This escalates in higher level in, let's say, the commercial department, where also the decisions taken are driven. For example, we are a liner company, and when we want to assign vessels in different lines, we have to make decisions based on what will be the impact if we exchange two vessels in different lines, what will be the impact in consumption, in emissions. We can now calculate with very high accuracy what will be the impact, and it escalates even higher in the top management when we want to define our, let's say, general strategy for our new building vessels. What will be the impact ordering an LNG vessel, as we have done, what will be the impact in the regulations, in fuel EU, in everything. So this is, in my opinion, what is the most innovative thing, which, of course, goes side by side with the other technologies we implement in our fleet.
All right, thank you. Would you like to answer the same question?
Yeah, of course. Why not?
Okay.
But pretty much we agree, and I agree personally with Konstantinos. So, what's innovative? The first thing is the culture change. The culture change that needs to be made and that we are trying to make, and to go from rational decisions to data-driven decisions. So, in Synergy, we have followed quite a similar approach with Neptune. We have created an intermediate department which collects, vets, and tries to make the data from the fleet available to everybody. And we are trying to implement, and we are trying to establish a culture from which we'll be getting really focused results, reliable results to make decisions with. So the part of innovation that has to do with culture, we totally agree with Konstantinos and with the approach that the culture needs to change and it needs to be less rational and more data-driven. It is a very difficult change. It requires a lot of persuasion to people that are very successfully supporting the vessels all these years. So you have quite a big resistance to change, but in the same time you have very powerful tools assisting you on even optimizing better. On the hardware side, there are various solutions available for optimizing performance, for minimizing emissions. I think that the most innovative approach is stop evaluating things that sound good and start implementing things that work. So we are trying to do that. We have tested various systems. Some of them have worked, some of them less. So we are trying to find things that work, that are easy for our real crewmen to operate, that work and support and optimize the vessels. So that's pretty much what I consider an innovative approach.
Great. You pretty much answered my next questions, too. Angus, you have something to say?
Sure. Thanks. So I've been in the shipping industry for 5 years now, which I think means that I'm still comparatively a newcomer. So forgive me if what I say now is just completely incorrect. But one of the things that I have perceived as actually counterintuitively somewhat of an innovation and an innovative approach in shipping is this new role, which you guys are both fulfilling incredibly successfully, which is this energy efficiency concept, which goes, which is breaking down the silos partially, right, between technical and operations and even commercial. And I think one of the key impacts that has is, rather than, let's say, a more traditional approach, particularly from a naval background, someone coming and saying, well, to make the ship more efficient, obviously what we do is we add bulbous bow or something along those lines. Actually thinking more holistically, as you guys and many of you will do on a daily basis, and saying what we do in the technical department and the operations department are to some degree one and the same if what we're looking for is an increased efficiency on the ship. So, for example, the way that you choose to operate the ship and the way that the ship is actually physically, structurally built are two things that should be considered together. And what I've seen is, even over the last 5 years, this approach, backed up, as you both said, by a data-driven strategy, is a kind of no-brainer. But it's still innovative, and I think that's a fascinating thing. And I think that's the way that a lot of shipping companies, you guys included, are making significant improvements quite quickly.
Oh, I have a mic. When you mean, okay, I'm just going to continue with these questions, then I'll ask you my own questions. Okay, what do you think are the main disadvantages of being innovative when it comes to vessel efficiency?
I will start first. Okay. For Neptune Lines, because we are also operators of the vessels, we operate the vessels ourselves. I have to admit the biggest benefit is commercial, because every ton of fuel we save, it is a direct benefit for us. This is also big motivation to invest in new technologies, and this is what we are doing for years now. We are, let's say, always investing in new energy efficiency technologies. And so the first and biggest, let's say, advantage is commercial. The second is, of course, the reduction of emissions, the improvement of our GHG intensity, the reduction of our emissions, and with the impact it has to the environment. Other than that, there are other also side benefits, let's say, because some technologies have also the added advantage of convenience. For example, for the crew, digitalization is sometimes, if it is designed correctly, it has the advantage of simplifying procedures, improving the workflows, and these side advantages. But I would say the two biggest advantages is the commercial impact and the emissions, the lower impact for the environment.
Would you like to also?
I'm fully covered. I think
I
think I should answer for the disadvantage.
Disadvantages, exactly.
I mean, I totally
Okay,
agree.
yes.
The commerciality is the huge benefit, which goes hand to hand with the environmental impact that's minimized due to the decreased costs. So this is the advantage. You are more commercial, you are more appealing, either to yourself, if you are operating the vessel yourself, or to a charterer, or if you are in a time charter outfit, as we are.
Okay. I want to get back to Angus. Going back to what you just said before, it's a no-brainer. I'm a little bit old school. How do you go about implementing such an idea with a manager? Like right now, I have a management company, I own a ship. What do I do to implement this?
I think that probably, so I'm from deep sea, so we provide these kind of solutions. So I think that probably the best person to answer this is one of these guys. I'll hand back to Vasilis because I think that he'll probably give a more compelling answer than me.
Okay, so if you want to implement, you mean this type of system in your ship. So you got to the disadvantages. The first thing is cost.
Right.
You need to invest. You need to invest to this kind of approach, to this kind of structure to get it back. So you'll have to install in your vessel the necessary hardware for your data to get back at shore. That means a very fast and steady internet connection, and that means a suite such as deep sea. We have deep sea in all our fleet.
Right.
That is able to get your data back, go over them with AI-assisted vetting, and project them to you in the office. So it starts by hardware installation at sea. It starts at cost. It starts by investing, so it has a cost. It starts by hardware installations at sea, and it starts at looking at the data in the office.
Right.
So you need to invest in people that will be following the data and that will be providing you useful solutions and useful tips about what's happening, and by hardware installation on board, yeah.
You wouldn't happen to know how quickly my return will come after this investment?
I'll tell you what, many companies implement such strategies, pay the cost, adapt suits like deep sea, and never look at the data. In this case, they are sitting inactive for many companies. But if they are saying that just creating a sustainability department, just creating it,
right,
decreases the fuel consumption of a vessel by 2%. Just the idea of somebody dedicated following consumption. I guarantee you from our experience that with a good partner that will help you access your fleet's performance, you'll pay back your investment very quickly.
Would it make sense to do this, for example, if you have, is there a minimum fleet requirement? Or like, how would it work? If you have one or two vessels, would that work there?
I'll tell you what. In my car, which is a low-cost car, there is a screen which shows how much gasoline we consume per 100 kilometers.
Right.
We consider it that essential that every car, or I mean most of the new age cars, have it. And we are having a vessel at sea consuming tons per day, many tons, 15, 20, 30, 100, depending on the vessel type and size. And we are still relying on ROB measurements of listing vessels at 8x4 or at things that we consider with no significant cost factor at shore. So it makes absolute sense, yes.
Excellent. You see, I knew it. You definitely know your stuff. So in terms of the AI you mentioned before, what is that exactly? Is it a software that you install and then it gets the data, it processes it for you? How does it work exactly?
It's for me, okay.
Or for anyone can answer that question. Konstantinos.
So AI is in our lives in several spots right now. If we are talking about high frequency data AI assistance, it is in two places. First of all, DeepSea has a suite which is the AI assisted weather routing. So you have AI supporting you on the best route through weather AI and your SEP, your data. This is one part of it. There is a part where you have fouling assessment that's assisted by AI model. So there is an understanding of how your data goes and the degradation of your vessel, which is AI assisted. And on the other pillar, on our culture, we are using AI to go over all this amount of data, identify gaps, and create useful assessments in our everyday life.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for the discussions that we're having at this second? Or no? Okay, I'll ask another question. What happens to the people, like what kind of, is there special education required for the staff at work? For example, you have an operator, you have a captain. Is there something that he has to educate himself on in order to run with this? Konstantinos?
Yes, this is, let's say, the most important part to utilize the new technologies. Training is always needed, and especially for AI, as you mentioned. First of all, on the vessel, installing new systems requires new training. Also in the office, making this data-driven approach decision-making we mentioned earlier, needs, of course, training for the people in office. The first and simplest thing is to the people in office to be able to use the platforms, because usually the data are stored in a platform, let's say, that somebody will have to consult. The second is to get the mentality, I would say, the way of thinking, the culture, as Vasilis said, to overcome taking decisions based on your experience, because usually some people have very big experience and they trust it, they blind, let's say. This is not the way to act anymore. You have to consult the data in every decision nowadays. So this needs a change of culture, I would say, yes, and a small training. But it is not the biggest barrier. Most people, at least in Neptune Lines, have been able to adapt on this.
Are there any regulatory pressures on this?
This is the biggest barrier, I would mention, apart from the commercial part that Vasilis mentioned. In order to innovate in energy efficiency, of course, the biggest barrier is the commercial part. The innovative technologies are usually very capex intensive, and at the beginning, at least for the first installation, you have a very big risk. As soon as the technology is installed and it proves the benefit, then it's no-brainer. I remember some years ago we were discussing about applying silicon anti-foulings in our vessels. Nowadays, it's no-brainer. We do dry docks and we take for granted that it will be painted with silicon anti-fouling. So, but for newer technology, let's say for wind assistance, it's a very big risk to invest millions and not being sure about the benefit. The second thing is the regulatory background. This is the biggest, at least for us, the biggest barrier, because we have over the next year multiple dry dockings, and we want to secure our vessels to secure their compliance for the next 5 years, the regulatory compliance. And apart from Europe, we don't know what will be the regulatory framework in a few years. So this is the biggest, let's say, problem: what to invest and what to install in a vessel, without knowing how the regulatory background will be shaped. So you are correct. This is the second biggest barrier, at least for us.
So long term, how do you see the sustainability in this? Do you think that it'll make a big change? That like it would. This is the future. Is that how you see it, Angus? What do you think?
I certainly do.
Certainly do.
I mean, if I can characterize what I have seen and what I think we're going through now as an industry to some degree is many clever people, including many of the people in this room, have over years learned very advanced techniques and adopted very advanced techniques to try and understand exactly how vessels behave. But the truth is, as I think probably most people would agree, until quite recently, there has always been quite a significant error margin in understanding at any point, under any set of conditions, what a vessel will actually do. And by do, as particularly Konstantinos alluded to, really commercially what we're mostly talking about here is fuel consumption and the effects thereof. Now that we are getting to an age when we do have these kind of techniques, and AI, not just deep seas AI, but AI in general is one of the very few tools that can actually understand, can find the best path through this incredible 20D data field and understand very accurately how a vessel performs. Now that we have that information, we can finally make what is getting on for real data-driven decisions. And I think that's quite a new thing, right? And so it's not just that these sort of innovative approaches. I mean, we started talking a lot about AI and this, but it's not just that it's the future. It's actually a huge step change that is happening right now, and I think it's exciting.
Right. So by implementing this whole system, we can avoid the retrofitting, I guess, save costs there, and just use this to save money and to.
I'll tell you what, the regulatory framework requires a decrease in the emissions you make. In the same time, there is no fuel availability for, let's say, doing biofuels. There is not yard capability of building new vessels if the magic fuel existed. So the only way that you have to improve is retrofitting existing vessels with working equipment and optimizing your existing behavior. So yeah, in that sense, I agree. If you optimize yourself and you absorb the margin that you have on optimizing with the same, let's say, pattern, you are avoiding retrofitting, or you are postponing at least. Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, I think that we come to the end of this discussion regarding this topic. Unless there's something else you would like to discuss, you want to emphasize on? Vasilis, Konstantinos, Angus?
No, I'm okay.
Does anyone from the audience have any questions for our panelists? No? You ready for cocktails then? Anyway, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to discuss this with everyone here today. I find the topic very interesting, and I'm definitely going to be looking into this for my company as well. So I want to thank you for inviting me here. Anyhow, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you.
And that brings the conference to a close. I'd just like to thank all our speakers, all our panelists, everyone that attended here today, both in person and online. I'd like to say a big thank you to our sponsors. And yeah, you can all join us for a cocktail reception in the sponsor room, which is sponsored by Nordic IT. Thank you.